Hey, what's going on, fam? It's Kyle Henderson of BamaInsider.com following Alabama's 63-48 victory over Ole Miss. As Nick Saban said, there's been some wild ones in Oxford, and this one was about as wild as it gets. Here to provide a couple things that I learned going into this Week 4 matchup with Georgia. A lot to dissect on both the offensive and defensive side of the ball. So many points. I mean, I think going into this one, I don't even think Vegas expected there to be that many fireworks. Everybody was worried about the rain, but it was more about the points that were put on. It was just unbelievable what both of these offenses did Saturday night in Oxford. And we can kind of look at the overall stats. I mean, these are mind-blowing stats that I'm about to read to you. First downs. Alabama had 37 first downs. Ole Miss had 31. Pretty incredible, right? You look at the overall yardage from this game. Mind-blowing. Alabama had 723 yards of total offense. Ole Miss, 647 yards of total offense. I mean, you look at the rushing yards from Ole Miss and how they were able to effectively run the football against Alabama, completely unacceptable. Nick Saban even wondered after the game if Ole Miss had their signals. I mean, it happens in college football. But, I mean, Nick Saban said that every single time that Alabama lined up, Ole Miss had the perfect play called. Snoop Conner for Ole Miss ran 21 carries, 131 yards, and had 2 touchdowns. Jaron Ely ran the football 19 times for 122 yards. Do you understand that this hasn't happened since 2004? I mean, that's pre-Saban. 2 guys from an opposing offense, both rushing for over 100 yards. I mean, nearly almost 150. I mean, total yards that Ole Miss rushed for, 310 yards. Snoop Conner had 6.1 per average per carry. Jaron Ely, 6.3. Unbelievable. I've never seen it before. Even Matt Corral, he danced around. He extended plays. And by the way, I thought he was a fantastic quarterback. I think he's going to win a lot of games for Lane Kiffin. The escapability that he has, Alabama couldn't get to him. 13 rushes for 54 yards. More on Ole Miss's offense. Corral, 21 of 28. 365 yards with 2 touchdowns, all right? So we look to Alabama's offense, and, of course, we're going to dissect the defense. But, I mean, Najee Harris went in complete beast mode. You talk about that Heisman campaign, what he did last night, that was Heisman-esque, right? Putting the team on his back when they needed him to. And I think a big part of that was the play of Brian Robinson as well. I mean, Brian Robinson did a fantastic job for second week in a row, really playing that running back that we expected him to. And I think last night we really did see, the top tandem in the country. I mean, of course, you could probably say that about Snoop Conner and Jaron Ely as well, right? But Brian Robinson came in and did what he needed to do. He had 10 carries, 78 yards. Really liked his game plan. I thought he ran downhill very hard, very effective. So between Najee Harris and Brian Robinson, those two, 6 touchdowns in the game. And over 270 yards rushing just between those two. Really outstanding. Now we're going to talk about Mac Jones and the play that he had against Ole Miss. I mean, the kid has been playing through the roof. I mean, what he's doing through 3 games has been just phenomenal. And I think what my biggest takeaway from Mac Jones is the efficiency and his confidence, okay? The efficiency, let's start there. 28 of 32, 417 yards. 2 touchdowns. And I think being able to rise up, being able to see his receivers across the middle of the field. I loved the last play, the last drive of Alabama is in the 4th quarter. Alabama throws, they get gutsy, right? And you have to. Maybe it was being just aggressive. I thought it was a great call by Steve Sarkisian to have the confidence in Mac Jones to go downfield, to go to Jalen Waddle. It was a 45-yard connection. That put the game at 56-45, right? That was right when, there was a later part, and it was Devontae Smith with the 16-yard touchdown run. How about Devontae Smith? Have himself a game. 13 receptions, 164 yards. Get this, fam, all right? Between the last 2 times that Devontae Smith has played Ole Miss, 25 receptions. 25 receptions in those 2 games combined. And get this. He has 411 yards receiving, and I'm not done. He has 7 total touchdowns. All right, so Devontae Smith. I mean, when you start to talk like long-term Heisman, I mean, you kind of like, yeah, I think you kind of rank him from Alabama. Mac Jones, just because he's just playing phenomenal. Najee Harris is not too far behind. I mean, it's really not a running back award anymore, right? There's a lot of positive things to say about the offense. I thought the offensive line played outstanding. Mac Jones said that he didn't even get touched last night. I think the offensive line did a great job. And I think they wanted to really prove that they could run the football when they needed to, and Alabama did just that. Najee Harris, again, 206 yards rushing, 5 touchdowns, just an unbelievable performance. His average per carry, 9.0 yards per carry. Brian Robinson, 7.8. So really neither team could stop one another. And now let's get to what everybody wants to talk about, and that's the defense. Does Pete Golden need to be fired? I mean, look, I'm not in that position to say that. I mean, that's up to Nick Saban, but all signs are pointing to the fact that Pete Golding or Alabama needs a new defensive coordinator, right? I think I've kind of been in the camp that I wanted to see a larger sample size. Well, we got a large sample size last night with Alabama allowing, what was it? I mean, almost over 600, almost 700 yards of total offense. I mean, 647. That's the magic number that Alabama allowed last night. It's just unbelievable. And the point total. I mean, you look at the fact that they allowed 48 points. I mean, look at the games that Alabama has lost, the last 2 times. What's been kind of the magic number? If you get almost to 50, you have a shot to beat Alabama. Auburn was the last team to do it. Ole Miss. I mean, even Lane Kiffin said that they had him on the ropes, that they had this is what Kiffin said. Kiffin said they had the number 1 team in the country on the ropes last night. All right. And I think, a lot of people probably agree with that. I think Alabama was able to make some plays in the end, and there was no way Ole Miss was going to stop Alabama's offense. The defense, I mean, where do you guys want to start? Dylan Moses said it was all about communication following the game. You can watch all those press conferences on our YouTube channel. You think it's communication, or do you think it's just play calling? It's schematics. You think it's the players not being in the right position? Do you think it's players not being able to make tackles? I think this team, for whatever reason, they don't tackle kind of like these, even like 3-4 years ago. It's like those arm tackles. It's trying to strip the football, just not even wanting to be physical, right? So I think there's a lot to dissect on the defensive side of the ball. We can look at the inside linebacker play. I don't know if those were just the correct calls by Lane Kiffin. No, Lane Kiffin called a brilliant game. Him and his offensive coordinator did a fantastic job exposing Alabama, but right through the middle of the field. I mean, every single time. I mean, Ely, Snoop Connor, just right up the field, gashing Alabama again and again and again. There were so many times that Alabama, I felt, had Matt Corral wrapped up in the backfield. Corral's able to extend plays, and A, yeah, that's because of his athleticism, but B, the defense just, not being able to make tackles, not being in the right position. I thought that was good effort, from the defensive line for the most part. I think Matt Corral just extended plays. Does Alabama need a new defensive coordinator right now? I don't know. I mean, can Georgia be effective running the football like Ole Miss was? I mean, let's face it, Georgia has some incredible running backs, and they have a very good offensive line. So if I'm looking at what can beat Alabama, and as Lane Kiffin said, you have to be perfect to beat Alabama. Can Georgia be perfect? Can Tennessee be perfect? I don't know. We're going to have to find out as we move forward. But Alabama certainly has holes on the defense, many holes on the defensive side of the ball. What do you guys think about the secondary play? I thought Jordan Battle did a pretty good job. I think he had a big pass breakup and 11 tackles on the night. But the thing is, Jordan Battle is going to be absent from this Georgia game in the opener. He had that targeting call, and that was with 2 minutes and 14 seconds in this game. So that means he's going to have to sit out this first half. And I think, that's going to put DeMarco Hellams out there. So you have DeMarco Hellams and Daniel Wright. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. And we'll see if Georgia can be effective throwing the football. But if I'm going against Alabama, I'm running right at them. I'm making them prove that they can stop the run. Alabama really hasn't been able to stop the run, right? You look at, Texas A&M, their game plan really wasn't to, kind of gash Alabama, right? I don't think Jimbo Fisher had the best game plan. I mean, Kellen Mond, 318 yards passing. But what Ole Miss did last night, that's the magic formula. That is the magic formula to beat the Alabama Crimson Tide, is to run right at them, run up the middle of the field, extend plays, and have a quarterback that can elude your defense. That's the magic formula. And if they can do that, then Alabama's going to lose. They're not going to lose once. They're going to lose twice. I mean, this defense, needs to improve. They need to make adjustments. They need to figure out a way to get to the quarterback, right? You know how many sacks Alabama had last night? Yeah, right? You're out there. They had 2 sacks. It was Christian Barmore and Chris Allen. Those were the 2 guys that were credited with sacks. And just as I said earlier, Alabama did a good job keeping Mac Jones upright. He was only sacked 1 time last night. So, I mean, the defense, there's so many problems to point to. Dylan Moses, trying to take the blame, trying to say it's a communication failure. What have you guys thought about his play? I don't know. I mean, do you feel he's the same player that he was a couple seasons ago? Seems like ever since he came back from the ACL, I mean, he's not quite that player. I don't know. Sound off in the comment box. Christian Harris, I thought, did, what he's been doing these first 3 games. Malachi Moore, I felt, I'll have to kind of look at the Pro Football Focus numbers to see how many times he was targeted. He's a freshman. This guy's going to play like freshmen. There was a lot of people critical, even William Anderson, saying that he couldn't make the tackle in the backfield. In my opinion, I think William Anderson is playing, through the roof right now. I think he's playing fast, he's playing hard. But a lot of these upperclassmen, they got to step up. And, I mean, there's not much time to do it. Now, part of it is, yes, the game of college football has changed. It's all these points. There's going to be a ton of points put on the board, but it's also schematic. So Alabama needs to go back, needs to figure out what they can do to avoid having this type of game again. Because there's teams out there that are going to go to the same exact game plan and try to take advantage of Alabama. And, I think kind of when we look at the overview, this is the magic formula to beat the Crimson Tide. Keep them in one of these track meet type games. But the thing is, when you look at Alabama's offense, who across the landscape of college football can outshoot Alabama? Could it be Clemson? Who else? Tell me. Is it Florida? When we look down the road, I don't know. Florida, was just beat by Texas A&M. I mean, so I think it's, as we kind of turn the page to the Georgia Bulldogs, my biggest question going in this game is, does Georgia have the offense to beat or outshoot Alabama? And do you think that game's even going to be a shootout? And I saw somewhere, I think it was on social media, I can't remember who said it, but they said that Lane Kiffin played Nick Saban the best out of his former assistants. I don't know if that's true. Kirby Smart has, had Nick Saban on the ropes not once, but twice. And Nick Saban's been able to, come back and beat Kirby Smart. So I think Lane Kiffin played a fantastic game. He had a fantastic game plan. He had that nice drip before the game and the suit and, and everything that went into Lane Kiffin. He knew what he was going to do against Alabama. He knew it. But playing him the best, I think one of the top 3 performances, I'd probably say, Kirby in the title game. That game went into overtime. And then the second time was the SEC championship. And then the third time was this one right here. Lane Kiffin's going to be a problem. He's going to be a problem for a lot of coaches as you move forward. He won that overtime game against Kentucky. A lot of points, a lot of yards. Against Alabama, did the same thing. As you looked at Ole Miss's schedule, Ole Miss having Lane Kiffin, fantastic move, fantastic upgrade. I think he brought it. And this team is very, very good. Matt Corral, hats off to him. Fantastic player. But, Alabama just able to have just the much better offense in this game. And that's what I think it's going to come down to is, can you beat Alabama? Can you outshoot Alabama? And we haven't seen Mac Jones make many mistakes, right? Even you can point to the tip ball, right? I mean, was that really a mistake? I mean, not really. I think it was just a good play on the, defensive side of the ball for Texas A&M. So point is, you got to be able to outshoot Alabama. Can you do that? I don't know if there's many teams out there or if there's a team out there that can beat Alabama, but the defense is the problem. The offense, there's nothing wrong with Alabama's offense at all. So you look to Steve Sarkisian, who's been doing a fantastic job. We should probably talk more about Steve Sarkisian and the continuity that he has being in the second year with Alabama as offensive coordinator. And then you look to the defense, and everybody's going to point to Pete Golding, right? He is the scapegoat. He is the problem. You agree with that? Because there's a lot of defensive minds in that room, including Nick Saban. Nick Saban, this is his defense. He's a defensive-minded coach. You got Sal Sinceri back there. You got Charles Kelly. You got Charlie Strong. Right? A lot of defensive-minded coaches. You got Freddie Roach. You got Carl Scott. all those guys back there? Is the blame all on Pete Golding? Is he the one just forcing this defense down Alabama's throat? Or is it Nick Saban's defense? Can Nick Saban no longer keep up with this new age of college football and all this offense that's coming their way? Or is it none of that? Is it just this one game that Lane Kiffin was able just to take it to Alabama? I don't know. I'm not pointing the finger at anybody. But I know that what we saw last night from the defensive side of the ball is not going to help Alabama win another national championship. And isn't that what we're all playing for? Isn't that what Alabama's playing for? I get it. A lot of these teams are trying to win bowl games, trying to advance. But isn't the goal perfection here in Tuscaloosa? I know that's why I came to Tuscaloosa. Everybody's trying to be perfect, right? So if the defense is not perfect, Alabama is not going to be perfect. Can they win a national title game losing one game? Yeah, they can. That's how college football is. You can bounce back. But this team is beatable. The offense is unbelievable. The defense needs to tighten up. I'm calling for solutions. What do you guys want to see? Sound off in the comment box. We'll continue to provide coverage right here on BamaInsider.com. It's Georgia week. It's Alabama, Georgia. The biggest game right now this season is next up. And if Alabama can take it to Georgia, I think that's going to resonate with college football that, this team is able to make adjustments. They're able to beat a very quality team. I mean, it's Alabama, Georgia week. Can't wait to talk more about it right here on BamaInsider.com. Thank you very much for joining me today on the postgame podcast. Thank you very much for joining us on the postgame call-in show. Check out all our coverage back at BamaInsider.com. Please like and subscribe. We'll catch up with you soon. And Nick Saban's press conference for Georgia week coming up on Monday, October 12th. Signing off from beautiful Tuscaloosa, Alabama. I hope you have a great Sunday with your family. Talk soon. Kyle Henderson of BamaInsider.com.